In the 80s, Indiana Jones was the best action character that you could find anywhere. And there were a lot of imitations. And today we're going to be discussing two of those, and we will figure out which one is the best. Jake Speed versus Jack Colton in Romancing the Stone. We'll figure out which movie is worth watching or which one should we throw away to space.
Okay, Johnny, this one's got your number on it. Let's jam.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another Versus episode of our podcast, CinemaJam. My name is Pablo Velez from Montreal, Canada, and as usual, I'm joined by Sebastian Gomez from Austin, Texas. Hi, Sebas. How's it going?
I'm all 80s action hero right now, so I'm very excited to talk about these two movies.
Awesome. So just a reminder of viewers, today this is a Versus episode, meaning that we're going to put two movies that have the similar theme or topic or the same idea. We're going to put them to battle, and then Sebas and I, we're going to agree on who's the winner of those two movies and which one should just go down the drain of awful these movies. Okay, let's do this, Sebas. So I'm going to quickly introduce the two movies, and then we can start with our rounds and maybe put some context, and then we start the battle round. So first of all, what are the two movies that we're going to be talking about today? So the two movies that I proposed to Sebas to do in this Versus episode, one is called Romancing the Stone from 1984, directed by Robert Zemeckis, and starred by Michael Douglas in the title role of Jack Colton, Kathleen Turner as the leading lady, Joan Wilder, a writer from New York, and he has a pretty extensive cast. Maybe just to highlight, Danny DeVito is there in one of his first mainstream, I want to say, roles in
out of TV into film.
Exactly.
This is one of the first ones,
in motion movies. That's movie number one. Then movie number two, just a couple of years later, from 1986, Jake Speed. This is a movie that comes from someone, director named Andrew Lane, and we don't know much about him, to be very honest. The leading actors are Wayne Crawford, who actually also co-wrote the movie, and he has actually the lead role of Jake Speed, the hero in this movie. Then we have Margaret Winston, Karen Coppins in the role of Margaret Winston, who's the equivalent of Kathleen Turner in this movie. And actually, we're going to talk about how similar they are. And maybe the biggest name in the cast is John Hurt, the great John Hurt from Alien fame. In a very weird role as the evil
villain of
Sid.
He's the villain of the piece, and we definitely have to talk about the villains in both movies. Very poppy, very interesting villains in both movies.
So now let's just give a quick context for our viewers, and then we go straight into the battle. So why did I choose those two movies, and why did I find them like so relevant from a, let's say, a logical perspective? If you want to dig back into the 80s era, is that both movies came out very close to each other, maybe like a year between them. Yeah, so both movies actually have very similar storylines. So in one case, in both cases, we have the leading ladies, the characters of Kathleen Turner and Karen Coppins as female, so women from New York that actually get their sisters kidnapped in some exotic hotspot country. In one case, Colombia. In the other case, some African nation that remains unknown. And
actually, it's interesting because in the Jake Speed is basically the plot of Taken, because they kidnap them in Paris and take them to the African countries.
It's actually a good point. Yeah, so there might be some initial ideas that were taken by Taken for their own storyline. No, but the similarities don't stop there.
Yeah,
both leading ladies are into books. So meaning the story of the movie revolves around a book. In Romancing the Stone, Kathleen Turner, her character, is actually the writer of these stories. And a lot of what drives the plot and her relationship with Michael Douglas' character is actually where she's coming from as this romance novelist. In the case of Jake Speed, actually Karen Coppin's character, Margaret, is the reader of the books, and Jake Speed is actually the main character in the books and in real life. So it's pretty interesting, Sebas, how the two movies actually deal with the same topics, subplots, but they are like so different in terms of execution, I want to say.
Yeah. And I want to mention the villains because they are also families, like villain families. In the case of the Romance in the Stone, Danny DeVito is the cousin of Ira, that is Zach Norman, that is the one that actually kidnaps the sister of Joan Wilder. And in the case of John Hurt has a brother that is called Lawrence, played by Barry Primus. Both of them are crazy and funny, and at least try to be funny.
Yeah, and over the top in every possible way.
And there are a lot of things to compare these ones. Obviously, the first one is that they are trying to copy Raiders of the Lost Ark or Indiana Jones, but also, they have the kidnapped sister. They are in a heat-infused country. These are anti-heroes more than heroes. The women hate them with all the passion. The car. I was going to say there is a huge truck in the middle of the movie that is very important to the plot.
So let's get started with our battle round, Sebas. You ready?
Yep. Ready. Round one.
All right, round one, story and script. So, Sebas, I'm just gonna put out the question out there. Of the two movies that share like so many similarities in terms of their like core story and basically the storyline, which one do you think had the tighter plot?
I mean, Diane Thomas is the writer of Romance in the Stone. Is actually kind of sad because was her first script, and she died not like days after the movie was released. So it's kind of a sad story because I actually think she did a great job of combining romance, action, and the intrigue around it, because it's not the obvious plot, right? I really likes that about Romance in the Stone, so I will definitely give it to Romance in the Stone. The other one is trying to just be like a star vehicle for Wayne Crawford. It's the only thing I can think about it because nothing else.
The one thing that I liked about Jake Speed, I agree with you. The point's gonna go to Romance in the Stone. But what I liked about Jake Speed is that it's taking place in this African country that is undergoing a revolution. So you have like this additional character, which is, we're guessing like government forces fighting this, revolutionaries, and it adds a backdrop that makes the movie even more intense than Romance in the Stone. It's not really is not like essential to the story as such. So in the sense of which one has the tighter plot, yeah, it goes to Romance in the Stone, without a doubt.
Yeah, that African revolution or whatever is happening, civil war that is happening in the background is kind of interesting, yeah, because it puts them in danger. Doesn't need to because they're supposed to be already be in danger, but it's quite interesting. But there was also a similar element in because there is this military Sola guy that is following them as well. He's after we can spoil this. Basically, the Romance in the Stone is because there is a treasure map that the kidnappers want, and it's going to take them to a giant heart-shaped emerald. Yeah, beautiful emerald actually. When I was surprised that it's actually well done. But there is also the military element behind them, following them all around with trucks and machine guns and all that.
Okay, before we move to the next round, just for our viewers, highly recommend it if you can. If you're like into these 80s movies where there's like this vision of Africa as this place in turmoil, go and look at the Must Be Crazy series, and also Sheena. Just a couple of recommendations. Let's move on to round number two. Round number two, characters and acting. Sebas, who stole the show? Either movie.
I mean, Michael Douglas and Kathleen Turner have such great chemistry that is difficult to give it to someone else. I mean, I love Danny DeVito. I think he stole the show in this movie, but it's the chemistry. Basically, it's like the chemistry between these two. They will end doing 2 more movies together. The sequel, The Jewels of the Nile,
Of the Nile.
and the War of the Roses. That is a very dark.
Yeah, you're right. War of the Roses.
Yeah, and in that one, actually, then Danny DeVito follows them in the 3 movies, in the other 2 movies, so he's always there as well. So I think the chemistry between these 2 guys is just perfect. I'm sorry, this couple, I guess, is perfect.
In terms of like a chemistry between the leading actors, definitely Romancing the Stone. But I gotta say, John Hurt in Jake Speed, there's something demented, like mental, like crazy in his performance. I don't know what was going on in his mind. It's the most insane performance you've seen from such a like good known actor. Like it's crazy.
It's almost like a James Bond villain, basically like a James Bond that is trying to. I mean, he's not really trying to destroy the world, but he behaves like he's trying to destroy the world.
I know he's over the top. He's like on speed or acid or something. It's crazy. Always doing like these cliches. There are like a couple of death scenes where we think he died, but he comes back. I don't know. For me, that was a more interesting villain than the many villains that were in Romancing the Stone, because you never knew who was the main villain there. You were saying the American guys that kidnapped the sister of Kathleen Turner, or the Colombian general that sold exactly. So there are like so many people that none of them is like super relevant, especially if you compare them to John Hurt in Jake Speed.
Yeah,
I want to give this point, maybe Silas, to John Hurt. Come on, is who stole the show? No, who had the most chemistry in the movies?
Well, I mean, I do believe that they together actually still the show. Okay, let's give it to John Hurt. Okay, I mean, he's
Nice.
trying to do something very strange. I'm not going to deny it.
Perfect. So at least Jake Speed's gonna get a point in this battle. Okay, round number 3: visuals and direction. So the 2 movies are from the 80s. They are very much 80s movies in every sense. But which one do you think, Sebas, aged better or looks cooler today?
Romancing the Stone, definitely.
Yeah, no,
I mean, there is undeniably Robert Zemeckis, even with all the crazy things he started to do with visual effects and all that. Is undeniably a great director. I mean, he's gonna do Back to the Future after this. Of course, he's still doing great things. So it's kind of hard to compete with that. I mean, I'm pissed that they show that Colombia that is obviously shot in Mexico. I'm not going to, that always offends me. Like in this Africa country, they shot it in Zimbabwe instead of the country, whatever it's called. I don't remember. But yeah, it's always offends me that. But I mean, I'm gonna give it some credit. At least the movie is well played. The action is just better in Romancing the Stone. So yeah, I'm gonna give it to that.
Okay. Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. So round number 4: soundtrack and vibe. Which one of the 2 had the most memorable soundtrack, Sebas? Like anything that you would listen to?
I mean, I like the music in Romancing the Stone. I'm trying to remember. I think he's one of those famous composers from the time.
While you look it up, I gotta say, the main theme in Jake Speed is something that gets stuck in my brain.
It's very poppy. It's very poppy.
Catchy. So it's not something that I would actually like put on Spotify, for example, to listen to myself, but it got stuck with me. I don't recall anything like relevant, honestly, from Romancing the Stone.
I mean, it's just Alban Silvestri. I mean, it's just a good theme song. It's just, background music. It's not Harry Potter or Star Wars, but it's just good. In plenty of scenes, especially at the end, you feel that it's actually enhancing the experience. Yeah, it's not memorable. I mean, none of them are actually like memorable. Yeah.
Yeah, but you have a point, Sebas. If there was one thing that I really don't like about Jake Speed is that it's not well done in terms of sound.
Hmm.
There's a lot of moments where the sound of the actors is actually a bit too low, and there's no background sound. Like in many sequences, even like action sequences, where you're supposed to be like waiting for that, soundtrack to
Pick up.
highlight the action and everything, and it's just not there. So I mean, even if it's not memorable, like they did a better job in terms of soundtrack and vibe with Romance in the Stone.
And both of them are dove. You can tell, but in Jake Speed, you can tell is super dove.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, it is. But it's charming. There's something about Jake Speed that is charming.
Yeah.
Anyways,
No, and I
let's
mean, it's a $5 million movie against Romance in the Stone is probably $30 million, something like that. So it's like it's difficult to compare because one is an independent. No, actually, Romance in the Stone is double that, $10 million. So okay, it's difficult to compare in that case.
Okay, so that point for round number 4 goes to Romancing the Stone. Now let's move on to round number 5. Quotability and memorable moments. So anything, Sebas, they would say is like a cultural touchstone or something like that.
I'm trying to remember. I mean, Lupe is pretty. I actually thought that Lupe was pretty funny and cool. When they run away in Lupe, the truck of the
The
Colombian
truck.
drug
Yeah,
cartel.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because the truck in the other one, I mean, the harp,
Harv. High, no, insertion. Highly armored
highly armored,
reconnaissance vehicle or something like that.
a red truck that
A
someone
red
owned.
Toyota.
Yeah, at least Lupe, I will believe him that you run away in that one. But harp, memorable. I will say also that the running away in harp inside the house is pretty
That's pretty
unique.
cool.
I'm not
That's
going to
pretty
deny
cool.
it, but I like the runaway. So maybe this one I will give it a tie. I mean, it
Let's give
has
it a
some
tie.
memorable moments. John Hurt shooting random people and the brother cleaning the carpet was like, what is happening here? While Danny DeVito is sleeping in the car and always getting in trouble the dumbest way. The Renault 4
Yes,
in the water is also pretty cool.
it is very
It's
cool.
kind
It
of
is
fun.
very cool. No, but
Yeah.
let's make this one a tie. I agree. Let's give 0.5 to each.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's well deserved.
Yeah, the Pulp Fiction and the Pulp, and that inspiration, both of them actually, I think, got it right. It's just that the execution, you can tell in the Romance in the Stone, is much better. But those crazy ideas of the based on books and crazy things happening, I think both of them try to get it. So yeah.
Yep. I agree. Okay, so last official round is round number 6, rewatchability. So which one, Sebas, if you had 2 hours now, would you watch again?
I will rewatch Romance in the Stone. Yeah.
I think I would watch again Jake Speed. I don't know. There's something about that movie that I always found fascinating. Is like a really bad movie, but there's something about it that is, I don't know, like so innocent, so naive. At the same
It's
time,
a
like
it's a
so
cultural artifact
so
from that
cartoonish.
time.
I think
It's a,
I would.
we can tie it again.
We can tie. Okay, let's tie.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
How are we points wise? I guess Romance in the Stone
So
won.
yeah, Romance in the Stone has 5 points right now, and Jake Speed has 3 points because of the two ties right now.
Okay. All right.
Do you want to talk about what WTF moments?
Let's do that one. Yeah, maybe. I mean, we know now who won, but maybe just for the fun of it, what was the WTF moment?
I
Like the
don't
most,
know.
for example, the most, I don't know,
Well,
impossible to believe scene.
I mean, the Renault 4 was so funny, like floating in the water and all that. I think it's just crazy. And what is the name? In the Jake Speed, that John Hurt has like these James Bond villain type of stairs, with all the switches and
Yes, the
to
one with the
dump in
lions.
the
Yeah,
in the light.
yeah, 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 yeah. I
But in
like
the
that
other
one.
one is the alligator, so it was like, oh, okay.
You see like how both movies are like so crazy similar,
Yeah,
like even in the artifacts that are used by the villains, like alligators in a den, lions in a den, like it's
like the
amazing.
obsessions of both of them, like they're just like plain crazy because Ira is also like just crazy, right? He's just a power hungry guy stealing artifacts, and John
Yeah,
Hurt just one that makes money selling women like white slaves. Yeah, crazy.
very, very crazy.
Which one I will give it to them? I mean, I do think Romance in the Stone has more interesting moments. Um,
It's fine. Yeah, give it to Thomas in the Stone. Like I said, for me, there's something very interesting about Jake Speed. I highly recommend that movie. I mean, we're done with the battle. Romance in the Stone won by
one,
yeah by a landslide, I think. But still, I highly recommend Jake Speed. It's on Tubi. It's easy to find, and it's such a nice movie to watch from the 80s if you're like into like what Sebas was saying at the beginning of the podcast, into Indiana Jones type of movies. It's shot in these exotic locations. You got a larger than life hero, got the heroine, the leading lady that's you know, in need of being rescued, but at the end also, takes charge of stuff, and you get this pretty evil villain there,
you
played by
know,
John
that's
Hurt.
that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about in the character, is that the leading ladies are super interesting because Kathleen Turner, you have seen movies by her. She's always like a very strong character, and in this one, she starts very innocent, but she's the one actually saving Jack Colton's life all the time. If you realize it, because of her, basically they cross the bridge. She
Yeah.
saves him later in another in another. She's saved him like 3 times. It was super interesting finding that, and she's the one that kills the general Solo at the end. She calls him for help, but he's always late. So it was super interesting, that dynamic. And this lady, Karen Margaret, is also interesting, but I really like the universe, where all these pop heroes or pop culture or pulp fiction guys are real heroes, and they just write the books to finance themselves or something like
I
that.
found that there was like so much potential in that
Yes.
idea. So much potential. I think it was poorly executed, but the concept behind this real life hero selling books to finance his adventures is come on, is great. Shakespeare is a great movie.
Yeah, I think I'm not going to say great movie, but it's a very interesting movie.
It's a
It's,
fun movie.
uh,
It's a fun movie to watch.
it's a fun movie to watch. Yeah. If I want to recommend, if other people wants to see other styles of movies with similar plots, we mentioned Alan Quatermain and the
Yes.
Lost City of Gold from 1986. A few years ago, there was this movie, The Lost City, with Sandra
Hmm.
Bullock and Channing Tatum. Basically, it's the same plot of Romance in the Stone. She's a writer and she finds someone to help her, but well, in this case, is the actor that she hires to be the character. So it's like a combination of both of them. And I mean, they tried to bait Indiana Jones so many times that, as Pablo mentioned in another of our podcasts, the trilogy, the original trilogy, is so good that even when they try to make it later with the Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull and I don't even remember what is the last one. They never really got it. You want to say something else, or should
No,
we?
I think we're done. We are done
Okay,
with this versus episode. We had fun, Sebas and I, watching the two movies, Romance in the Stone, Jack Speed. We recommend our viewers and listeners to just find them on Tubi. They're available in the States and Canada, and just watch the two movies and have as much fun as we did.
perfect. Thank you, everyone. Please subscribe, share the podcast, search for us in CinemaJam Pod in all the social media. We are in Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. And please leave a comment. We really want to see if you have seen any of these movies or have found any similar movies of this type. And in the end, we're going to post in our social media which is the next movies we were going to do the versus, because Pablo and I haven't talked about it. So, but until next time, keep jamming about movies.
Until next one.